Hello and welcome to this London Embroidery School Stitch Along. I'm going to be your host for today, Natasha, and we are going to be working on our brand new product, celebrating the Coronation that is upcoming here in the UK with our gold work crown coronation patch kit, which should result in something that looks a little bit like so with this one down here. So you can see what we're going to be doing today is starting off adding our passing thread, that's this little one here around the edges, and our rough pearls, those are the ones that make up the loops around the edge, and then little seed pearls to hold them into place to just top everything off. And you can see from my unstarted one here, if I take the needles out, how much that sort of like brings it up and makes it look expensive. So let's get started with some stitching. I'm going to leave this one down here so you've got it as a reference so you can see what I'm going to be working on. Probably not going to be able to finish all of the stitching within the time that we have on Instagram today, but I will get it finished, and as always with these stitch along videos, it's going to go up on our YouTube channel and will be available later in our Reels section. So if you can't stay for the whole stream, that's totally fine. You can catch up later, or you can come back to this when you are stitching your own crown if you like, so that you can have someone doing the same at the same time as you, or just chatting about stitching whilst you're stitching. I always think that's quite nice. Sort of gives you a bit more of that kind of like stitching circle feel if you are stitching on your own. So what comes in the kit is going to be our pearls, and we have our rough pearl. Now, I know that's confusing. Those are two different spellings of pearl, but welcome to embroidery. So yeah, seed pearls, rough pearl, and our passing thread. We're going to start with our passing thread initially, but first of all, what we need to do to prepare our embroidery is to take our yellow thread. We're going to be using yellow thread for pretty much everything. And a pair of snips. Just cutting ourselves a fingertip to elbow length piece of thread and threading that up into the needle provided, which is going to be an embroidery needle size 10. I am going to pop on my thimble. That is a personal preference that I like to stitch with a thimble. Do not feel obliged to do so, but you might find that you like that as you get to doing a little bit more stitching. So initially, all I'm going to be doing is just tacking the patch into place so that we can work on it. This approach to working on freestanding patches is a sort of applique just so that we can work on it, and then what we will do is cut this backing fabric, which is also supplied in your kit along with the yellow thread as well, to cut it away to the shape of the patch when we're finished, and the embroidery will be supported by both the fabric of the patch and the fabric underneath, which we are now applying it to. You can see I'm just doing a very big running stitch, just hold this into place whilst we work on it so it's nice and secure. It makes it more secure than if we just pinned it into place, like I've obviously got some pins in for the moment just to keep the patch in place whilst I tack it into place so that it is in place whilst we stitch it. I know. Embroidery chooses to have a lot of similar words. I feel it's a bit like the whole pearl conundrum, which is in fact a material of its own, as well as what we call cut bullion, and also the thing that oysters make that we have beads of. Yes, very confusing. Never mind. That is a discussion for another day. I've been so excited to share this kit with you. I've had a lot of fun working on it with my colleague who designed the patch itself, which is of course based off of our new King's actual crown, so that you can have a little of the coronation fun for yourself. These patches are wonderful for applying to, anything that you want to give a little bit more jazz to. And because they are freestanding patches, they have a lovely satin edge, so they're nicely finished. And once you're done with your embroidery, you could then sew this onto the item of your choice. So, perhaps you have a backpack that has lots of patches on it, or you want to add it to like a denim jacket, or any kind of, I think bags and purses are really great with these. I've also shown previously are patches that have been good for putting into a clear phone case in the back, so that you can have it on the back of your phone basically, which is pretty cute, so long as you don't wirelessly charge your phone. Don't do that through the embroidery. That's not a good idea. And that's probably not appropriate for this one because we've got a lot of height and you would crush this height and the gold work pieces we're adding of this particular design. But just for thinking about what to do with your embroidery patches in general, then that's another really cute idea that is available to you. So with that tacked into place, we can then remove our pins. As I say, the tacking is more secure than just pins on its own would be, but also the pins really get in your way when you're working on it. And we're going to be working a lot on the surface here, so we don't want to have any unnecessary bits in our way, irritating us whilst we're trying to do beautiful work. Right, on to the good stuff. It's always very tempting when you are doing embroidery to want to skip to the really fun bits, but actually the preparation is just as essential. So don't rush to try and get to the fun bits. It's important that you do good prep, take your time, set things up nicely like we just have, which took less than 10 minutes because that obviously includes me waffling on about pearl, and pearl. And then you can get to the good stuff and know that you're doing it in the right way, that you are setting yourself up for success. So I've done some little stab stitches just to start and then cut away the knot. I'm going to work on the section with the jewels to start with. These ones are twisted round one another. So we start at the bottom and we go under this ruby, over the emerald, under the sapphire, over the emerald, under the ruby. And then we do the opposite to fill the other way around. So you've just got 2 strands of passing thread here. To start off, what we want to do is to come up right on the edge of the ruby shape and unfurl one of our passing ends. So this is passing thread. It's got a lovely shine to it. You'll see it acts quite like a thread though, unlike some other gold work materials, which I'll talk about in a second. Oh, these are the wrong scissors. These are my gold work scissors. We have 2 separate pairs of scissors for that because gold work will blunt your good scissors. So try and keep your good scissors away from your gold work ones. So I've come up right on the edge of the ruby here, but a little way in from the end of what will be the passing thread line, sorry. And I'm just going to come down initially. This is just to hold the piece of passing thread into place whilst we get it exactly where we want it. So now I've got that first stitch in and held. We can just slide the passing thread back so that it meets the outside edge of the crown. And then we're going to add some extra stitches here to secure this into place, but also to finish the end of this passing thread. This is not the traditional method for starting and finishing passing thread, but I do think it's perfectly adequate for this particular outcome. It's quite a casual little piece. It's a little bit tongue-in-cheek. It's quite fun. And so we just want to work in the kind of quickest and easiest way to get good results, which this will do for you. So you just want to add a whole series of little yellow stitches. Each stitch does not split the passing thread. It just goes up and around, holding it into place and securing off that end. And you can see that any fuzzy ends of the passing thread that I had there have now been placated. Okay, so once that feels secure, we can then move along the passing thread. I'm coming up maybe 8 millimeters along from my last stitch. And coming down, again, just going over that passing thread. And this style of stitching we call couching, where you come up over the top of another thread and then come down on the other side of it, not splitting it and not working with the thread that remains on the surface. So I've got one stitch right into the corner there. You can see that is securing off the ruby's corner. And now I'm going to head over to this edge of the emerald and put in the first stitch there to hold that into place. So I came from underneath the ruby. I'm now going over the top of the emerald so that we get a nice crossover of our passing threads when they meet. And we've put in the second piece of passing thread for this jeweled section. So that's really the approach that we have to our couching. It's a very simple but very lovely way of applying threads like passing thread. It is not exclusive just to gold work though. This is a really helpful, useful technique that you will see used in all sorts of areas of embroidery. So you might use it for applying string, or if you wanted to apply a thick but delicate thread. Some of the other metallic threads, just regular metallic threads, like not for gold work, can be too textured to pass through the fabric, but this allows you to stitch them onto the surface without actually stressing that thread and passing it back and forth in through the body of the fabric. So yeah, for anything delicate, it's great. You can use it for ribbon. You can, use it for loads of different techniques. So you see it a lot in ribbon work too. Now, this kit has literally just come out to public launch at 11 o'clock today. So if you fancy grabbing yourself one, please do head to our website. We have a limited number of these, and as it is in commemoration of a special occasion, being the King's Coronation coming up at the start of next month, we will only have what we have stock-wise of these. So do grab one if you like it and want to do your own. As you can see so far, it's, very simple as an approach. And I mean, who wouldn't want one of these, right? And as much as I say I won't be able to finish this within this one live stream, it's easily achievable for somebody, newish to embroidery, to do this in a day. I'd say this will probably take you maybe between, I'm going to say 2.5 and 4 hours, depending on your skill level, obviously. But it, more than achievable in an afternoon. And so if you're tuning in from the UK and you, like me, have a whole host of new bank holidays added this year, and loads of them coming up in really quick succession for us shortly, and you want to spend a little of that extra time off work, if you do have it off work, doing a little bit of stitching, then this is a lovely idea for something that you could do just whilst you're at home, or perhaps if you're going on a little weekend away or something. Again, I'm obviously thinking about this as somebody from the UK, but I always like to have a little something with me to do in case it ends up being super rainy, which is always a possibility in the UK, is it not? Even at pretty much any time of the year. This would be a really cute little project to take away with you, just in case you find yourself with a few hours that you want to occupy yourself, but nothing too strenuous. Then I think that this is a lovely thing to do with that sort of time. Do let me know if you've got any questions. If I'm doing anything and you're wondering what I'm doing, why am I doing that, or you're just have questions about embroidery and you fancy asking me, please do pop your comments in the comments box at the bottom. I will check them periodically. Obviously, most of the time I am looking at my stitching because, you know, we're stitching hard here. But I will try and check those. And so any questions or comments that I see, I will read out. So feel free to chat away to me. So it's not just me chatting away on my own, talking about embroidery. This will be the first of 2 patches that we have for the Coronation. If you're already signed up to our mailing list, you will have had access to buying this patch from yesterday. There's always early access for our VIPs, so those are the people on our mailing list and in our Facebook club. The Facebook club is called London Embroidery School Club. You can search for us and find us on Facebook if you'd like to join. It's a little bit more of a community feel over there, unlike the mailing list, which is obviously always us talking to you. You guys can interact with each other a little bit more on the Facebook group. If that sounds like something that you'd like, please do put in a request. I check those myself and I can then obviously admit you and you can start chatting to other stitchers like yourself. So that's our first line in. I'm going to come up and do the reverse from this side. So we just create a loop initially, grabbing my passing thread, popping that into the loop, get it secured. Let's get some stitches in to hold that in place. And then whoop, a little too much pressure on the frame there. We can carry on it with the usual pattern. Just want to catch down that loose end here, get that looking nice and tidy. These kits very much are, you know, an introduction to gold work. They're an opportunity for you to try out a little bit of something that I think often seems quite intimidating as a technique. But like most things, once you break it down into its parts, it's really quite manageable and you can create some really beautiful effects with gold work. It has that luster, you know, of gold, of, yeah, power and money and all of the things that we associate visually with gold things. So it's a really luxurious feeling technique to try. And so if you feel like you might like to give it a go, I would absolutely say go for it. Things like this make it really quite accessible. The kits are not very expensive. I think they're £22.50, I want to say off the top of my head. Hold on, let me check that. Don't quote me. £24.50, sorry. Don't want to mislead you by £2 for the crowns. Some of our other little patch gold work kits are more around the £20 mark. So you can really have a go at these sort of techniques. And we've, as I said about the starting and finishing of the passing thread, it's not fully the traditional way of doing it, but it is a way of you doing it without having loads of excess materials and pieces of equipment. So you can just try it out, see if you feel like this style of stitching is for you, if it satisfies what you're looking for from a craft technique. And if it does, then obviously you can look a little bit further into the technique and we can go into more detail about the technical aspects of gold work. Because there are so many. Part of the beautiful thing about gold work is, as the name suggests, it is mostly done in gold. And so the differences are created by using different materials and different techniques of those same materials, but all in the one colour. So it's all about texture and surface and creating raisings and details using the skills that you have in this one colour. So within this within this piece, you can see that we've got the passing thread, as I mentioned, which has a slight sort of shimmer to it. And then we've also got rough pearl. So you'll see that the rough pearl, if I move it, it moves very differently to the passing thread. The passing thread is very much a thread, as with the rough pearl, I don't know if you can see that there, actually is a little tube. And if you could get up real close to this, you'd see that it's actually a coil. It's a spiral of wire wound around a tube. That's how they make the pearl. So we're going to be using the rough pearl for that. And the rough pearl is, the rough bit of it refers to the fact that it has a shine to it, like a sheen per se, but not actively shiny, if you know what I mean. There is something also called smooth pearl. Smooth pearl looks a little bit like this. So this one here is smooth pearl. And can you see how shiny that one is in comparison to this one, which is the rough pearl? Not quite as shiny. And then we have this one here, which is also often used in conjunction with other gold work pieces. This is bright check, and this one's more like glittery. So there's 3 different types of pearls just there to use as techniques. I'm really only scratching the surface of gold work here, guys. As I say, there's also passing thread and Japanese thread. Japanese thread, by comparison to passing thread, looks like this. So you can see it's a bit thicker, and I don't know if you can see that. Is it focusing? Yeah, so it's like a gold paper wrapped around a yellow core, rather than passing thread, which is like a very fine metallic thread around a thread core. And that's without even going into, you know, things like plate or spangles or Elizabethan twist. There's loads and loads of gold work materials, is all I'm saying. But it's combining them all together is what makes gold work really interesting. And of course, you can get all of those materials in a variety of colours. So we stock gold and silver of everything that we stock. But Bright Check, we also have lots of colours. So you can, you know, get a bit more variety on your finishes of that, and it makes it a really fun material to use. An example of that you may have seen would be in our Goldwork Jungle intermediate level piece, which perhaps is something to think about working towards if you are interested in gold work. That one looks a little bit like this, and so you can see, so this is passing thread over here, and then silver passing thread by comparison, super shiny when they're applied. We've got green rough pearl is the dark one here, and then we've got a green smooth pearl in a lighter green, but you can see the difference in the shine. We've got Japanese thread in the sun. We have this is rough pearl around over bump. I haven't even got into talking to you about raisings. That's a whole other thing with gold work. And then a variety of smooth and rough pearl in 3 different colours in the waterfall here. And then the orange and the pink, these are both bright checks. So you can see they're a bit sort of sparkly by comparison. So, you know, that's just an idea of some of the combinations of techniques that you can achieve with gold work and how they get combined with one another to create different effects and different surfaces. As you can tell, I could talk about this all day, and probably will, given half a chance. So I'm just gonna have a little smooth through. Oh, it's lovely to see how many of you have joined us today. Thank you for clocking in. Do feel free to say hi. For the eagle-eyed of you, you will notice in the background I have the patch that we're going to be releasing next week, which is going to be our Union Jack flag patch. This one doesn't include any gold work. It is beads that we add to this one. Again, really appropriate for relatively novice embroiderers. I'd suggest it's a good idea for you to have done a little bit of sewing before, to be comfortable with threading up a needle, for example. But equally, if that's something you struggle with, we can help you on that front. Perhaps you may not know, but we also have a YouTube channel where we release and have a library of gold work and sewing related videos, pro tips to help you with things that you might struggle with. We have sneak peeks of what it's like to work in an embroidery studio and things that we do and the samples that we have. One of which in particular I think you guys might find particularly interesting if you are interested in what I was saying about the various goldwork materials we've got. We have a sneak peek video that is all about goldwork materials and explaining their uses within pieces. So you can see where we've used gold work, where we've used pearl, where we've used smooth pearl, and how they interact with one another. Anyway, there's loads of good stuff over on the channel, so do check that out if you are feeling the gold work and embroidery in general content and would like to know more. Okay, so that is the 2 pieces of passing in for around the jewels. You can see that's nice and secure now. I'm going to move on to doing a little bit of our looped pearls, just so you can see how that looks in action. There are those I'm going to put on the beads up the top here. So we can just carry on with the same thread on the back, just bringing that up on this line to apply our first piece of pearl. Thank you to, I've got a couple of messages here. I've got a hello from Kazakhstan. Thank you for joining in from so far afield. I hope you're enjoying. We also have Tasha Bassett, hello from Cheltenham, and a wave. Thank you for joining us. And Mother of Corgis says, what kind of needle are you using? It's so small. This is an embroidery needle size 10. So it's pretty comfortable for threading up with a single strand. It really sort of helps to just use a single strand in it, though. I probably wouldn't suggest using more than that. And that is important because it should be small enough to go through our rough pearl, which is what we're going to do now. So I'm just going to bring over my board. You don't have to have a velvet board, but this is quite nice for cutting against. Again, something to think about. You won't have one initially when you first try a gold work project, but it might be something to look to get if it's something you find that you are particularly interested in. Now, this process is always a little bit of trial and error because we need to just assess if the length of pearl that we have is the right size for the loop that we want to create. So I'm going to start at about 1 centimetre. Actually, I'm going to cut 2 of the same length so that I've got a reference if I like it. So we're going to come up at the yellow part by the first bottom bead, Then we're going to pick up one of our rough pearls. They are quite small. You can see now why we need such a small needle, so that we can slip that over and slide the pearl down. And then what we want to do is just to allow that to bend back on itself and drop the needle back down where we came up. Easing the thread through. Don't let it go too wild. We don't want to upset anything. And just as that tightens, you can see how it wants to sit against the circle that we have of white where the bead would go. That looks a pretty good size. So I'd say 10 millimeters. This is the length of pearl when it's flat before we applied it. And fortunately, because we cut two, we've now got a lovely reference against which we can cut more pearls of the same size that hopefully should all fit beautifully. That's the dream, isn't it, really? Now, to ensure that this stays exactly where it should, we're going to come up on the outside edge of the bead, and we're just going to create a tiny little holding stitch. Now, be very gentle with this. Do not be heavy-handed with your pearl, because if you bend or damage or break your pearl, you will have to take it out and replace it. You cannot fix it once it's bent, because it's wound wire effectively. You can't just reshape it. Once it has a break in it, that's it. It has to be replaced. So I've just put a little holding stitch into the top there just to hold it into place, not pulling it tight. I do not want to split my rough pearl. Then coming back up in the middle of the pearl that I just laid, I'm going to take one of my beads. Let's just get a couple of those out. And ease that down into the loop. Again, just dropping the needle down inside of the pearl to place the pearl into place. Cute, right? Okay, let's try that again. So coming up again next to my previous one, I'm going to cut myself a few more pearls. Now I know that I'm happy with this length. And you can see this is where a velvet board, also known as a bullion board, really comes into play, because it means that you have a nice surface on which to cut your pearls and hold your beads so that everything isn't rolling around. They're made of velvet, and that's important because it stops everything from rolling. Because of the pile of the velvet, it sort of gives it a little bit of grip. And as soon as you start to have a feel of these goldwork materials, you'll feel how springy the spring of this is. When you cut it, they often just want to like ping all over the place. And I'm sure if you've ever done any beading or anything like that, you'll know what it's like when the beads just have a mind of their own and they end up all over your floor, and then you have short materials and no, it's not a good time. But something like a velvet board to think about getting perhaps in the future is a lovely little addition to your sewing kit, and it's just quite a nice thing to have. I mean, they feel nice. Who doesn't like the feel of velvet, you know? So again, just placing that pearl, using my finger very gently to ease it into place, to have it bend round on itself without breaking at all. Then we come up at the top of that piece of pearl, inside of the loop, pick up a pearl bead, and then come down. Again, all very gentle. As I say, this is something to do on a bank holiday, on a weekend, on holiday, because you need to be gentle. You need to try and be relaxed, to be calm. You don't want to be fighting with this embroidery technique. It is very much about being gentle and easing things into place. Slide that gently down. Because we're using such small needles, that is why I really like to have my thimbles on, because often when they're thin, they can want to go backwards rather than forwards as you push them. And that can get a little bit painful. It's not really about power, my reason for wearing the thimble. It's not about force. It's just about pressure and making sure that the pressure isn't going back into my finger pads, because they are quite precious to me, funnily enough. Okay, so that's a few of those in, and you can see how quickly they come together and how much they sort of like bring the piece up. Don't forget about those little holding stitches at the top. The pearls do hold the rough pearl into place, but it's that little bit more secure if you just add these little stitches at the top. So I can see I've got a couple of questions. Just flicking through. So Tasha Bassett, do you have in-person short courses available at the school? For the moment, we are remaining just online. We can do private tuition if there is something in particular that you want to learn. But for the moment, we're still working towards setting up in-person classes. Perhaps once again, we have moved to a new studio space in which we run our bespoke embroidery company, which is the sister company of London Embroidery School, which is called Hawthorne and Heaney. If you'd like to see some fun bits from us over that side on the commissions that we do for all sorts of different outcomes, do have a little look at their Instagram as well. Once again, that's Hawthorne and Heaney. We're still sort of working towards that for the moment, as I say. But if you have something in particular you want to learn and you want to get in touch, or basically just register your interest. If we have enough interest to start doing in-person classes again, we absolutely will. So if you want that, basically let us know. Mother of Corgis, are these for the coronation? They are in honour of the coronation. We're very excited as a London-based brand to be for the coronation coming up, and just to have a bit of a celebration going on. You know, the last few years have been tough for so many people for so many different reasons, and whether you are a monarchist or not, whether you are British or not, I think it's just nice to have something nice going on. So we are just leaning into the spirit of that. I'm just going to finish this thread because it's getting a bit short. I don't like working with a short thread. It really messes with your tension. That's a little tip from me for today, if you like. Don't try and play thread chicken with yourself. It's not worth it. For the price of a piece of thread and how little thread costs, just have a fresh one. Make sure you're working with a comfortable length. Can you see I can barely even sort of like turn my hand easily with how short the thread is? And actually this thread isn't super short. You know, it's still maybe 15 or so centimeters in length, but it's not comfortable, and that's what's important. So let's have a fresh one. I also don't like to use my thread for too long, simply because it starts to weaken and it starts to go fluffy. I don't know whether you've ever noticed that when you've been hand sewing. It starts to get a little bit fluffy the longer you've been using it, and that is it breaking apart. You know, nobody wants that. Nobody needs that. So stick to cutting your threads to approximately fingertip to elbow in length. Obviously that will be different for each person, but that's quite a good length of thread to work with, because it allows you to have a long enough length of thread. See, I'm doing what I did with the pearl earlier and saying thread like a million times, but it gives you enough length to work with that you're not changing your threads every 30 seconds, but not long enough that you put too much stress on it and wear it out. It also means that for your comfort and for your body's health and your back health and all that sort of thing, you don't need to bring the shoulder into each stitch, the movement of each stitch. The stitch is therefore controlled just through your elbow and wrist. And so for stitching, how it feels in your body, being able to stitch for longer lengths of time, and hopefully the more you start to enjoy your hobby, the longer you'll want to do it. And we want to make sure that it's not causing you any unnecessary discomfort in your back, in your shoulders, anything like that. It's very tempting to bend over our work, get real close to it, be really hunched. We don't want any of that. As I said earlier, you want to be nice and relaxed when you are stitching. You want to make sure you're stitching somewhere where you're comfortable. You're on a good, comfortable chair, nice and supported. Ideally, I would say no arms on that chair because you don't want them to get in the way of your elbows. You want free movement. But, try and sit up nice and straight. Try and think about your posture. Try not to bend round your neck or hunch your back, anything like that. And encourage yourself to have good posture and good positioning by also not working with threads that are too long. As I mentioned earlier, all of this will go onto our YouTube channel and onto our reels as well. So if you aren't watching this live, but would like to make a comment, ask a question, whatever, it is also me that looks at all of that. So you'll still be chatting away to me, even if you didn't manage to watch live and couldn't kind of ask your questions in the moment. I love watching the pearls go down. I find it so satisfying. This is a kind of cut work, and gold work can be split into different sections. Cut work is a big one of those. Threads, couching threads is another big one. So we've got a little bit of that down the bottom, and then we've got a little bit of cut work-ish for the beads section. Oh, I had somebody ask why we don't apply the pearl first. We want the pearl bead to sit nicely into sort of the top section of the looped rough pearl. So applying the pearl down first would kind of get in our way. It also means that we wouldn't be able to fit these goldwork pearls in quite so tidily because they'd be going around the pearl. So I would suggest this order is better. It also just sort of plays into the order of the height that we want to create. So the rough pearl sits underneath, and then the pearl bead we want to be higher. It is physically deeper, so we want it to sit above. The order of application is very important when it comes to gold work because you always kind of want to build from the base upwards. So as I was also saying earlier, I mean, you can't stop me basically talking about gold work, but when it comes to raisings and paddings, there are three main areas or styles. So you can raise with bump, which is where you use string to raise areas. You can use felt, and you can also use, a subsection of that is carpet, but you can also use cardboard is the last style. And so because you've got different materials for raising, you have to do all your raisings first because they are physically underneath everything else, but then you want to apply the materials in the order that you want to be able to see them, but also in the order of like least delicate to most delicate, so that you don't damage your already laid work by future work that you still need to do within the same design, which is why we do the passing first. The passing is more robust than the pearls, and so unlike I'm doing right here, I would suggest that you do all of your passing first and then do all of your pearl work. I have the Tiffin lady. Hello, kindly let me know where I may purchase a thimble like yours. From us. is the easy answer to that one. Love an easy question. You will find them in our specialist equipment section of our website. They are brass open-sided thimbles. I think they're great if you have longer nails in particular, because obviously they don't fit around your nail. It's something that I've always struggled with personally when I've tried either tailors or dressmaking thimbles. I also think that they are lovely because they are size changeable. I'm going to wax lyrical about this now, but you can see you can make it fit your finger, and like mine aren't round, they are shaped to each of my fingers. I do not change which hand each one goes on. If I put the wrong thimble on the wrong hand, because my two middle fingers are different sizes, as all of ours are, it feels wrong. I know how they should feel when they fit, and these have over time molded to my fingers. They are super comfortable for that reason, because I've just made them very much my own. And yeah, I actually like to have two, but you may be perfectly happy with one. Really depends on the style of stitching you're doing, and I appreciate that the styles of stitching that I need to be prepared for with my sewing kit might be a little bit more extensive than yourselves, being that I stitch professionally, but I like to be ready for anything, and having the two thimbles certainly makes things comfortable when we're doing slightly tougher work. So I hope that helps. Now, right, one more of these. So what I will say, because I don't think I'm going to get to it within this recording, the live session at least, but when it comes to doing the middle section, you want these ones to sort of lay on top of one another. And so to do that, you need to make sure that you apply the top of this little, so we've got this section of white section in the middle. You want to apply the top one first so that the next one can lean on to the previous, and so on and so forth, giving it that sort of almost like chain-like effect as it goes up. Start at the top and work down for this middle section, and you've just got the 4 little individual pearls to add wherever you might like to have them, in those little extra white sections that we have. Can't get a grip on this one. There we go. So just slide that onto the needle, nice and easy. Again, my thread's getting a bit short here, but it is the last one that I need to place. I'm just going to keep reading out the comments, only because they don't get recorded for posterity when we re-release this recording on YouTube. So the Tiffin lady, thank you so much. That really helps. I particularly like that it's adjustable. Yes, I think you'll find that it you can make it work for you. They do also come in 2 different sizes. I am wearing the smalls. I don't know. You probably can't really get a sense of hand size or anything like that. I have quite small hands in general. So I do have smalls on, but because they're adjustable, there is definitely a margin for making it just work for you. We also stock mediums on our website, and we are able to get larges if required. We don't have them in stock, but if that's something you think you would need, pop us an email and we will sort it out for you. Deep Violet Clouds, thanks for explaining. It's fascinating. I'm glad you find it fascinating too. I hope you can hear in my voice how excited I get about gold work and how much I enjoy talking about these things with you guys. So yeah, as I say, if you enjoy this sort of thing, we've made so many videos over the years of various gold work bits and just about embroidery in general. That I hope you'll find also useful. So do check out our YouTube channel. I really think that there's some great resources on there that might just like level up your stitching a bit more or fill in a gap in your knowledge you didn't know you had. And hopefully the main aim is that, you know, it inspires you to have a little go at some of these techniques for yourself. That's the end game. That's the main reason for doing all of these things. So I'm going to leave it there stitching wise for today. I will get this one finished off so that we can add it to the video. Thank you to everyone who has joined me today. It's been a real pleasure chatting to you guys, and I hope you've found something from this to take away for yourself. When I get to the end of this, I will just remove all of the tacking and then lifting the edge, cut away the excess fabric from underneath without cutting the patch itself, so that we're left with a nice freestanding piece, a bit like this one. I did this one in a different colour, so you can kind of see here where the extra fabric is and where all the stitching goes. Makes it really obvious. And these are all my passing thread stitches, and then these ones here were my looped pearls. But then you're left with a lovely freestanding patch you can apply to anything you like. You can't really see any of your workings, just the results of your beautiful shiny gold work. Yeah, I think I've said everything I can possibly say on this. So thank you so much for joining me. I've had a lovely time today. Thanks to everyone who's been chatting away to me. I'll get this finished off, and I will hopefully see you in the next stitch along. Also, look out for this little guy being released this time next week. If you're not already on one of our VIP lists, do think about joining if you want early access to all of our products, extra things from within the studio, if you want to have a say in what goes on at the London Embroidery School, the sorts of things we stock, etc., etc., join the mailing list or the Facebook club. All right, thank you. Bye for now.
She's waiting